What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over the X-Men. Now, it has been a very long time since we had sat down and talked about X-Factor. I think the last time we talked X-Factor was the earlier parts of the main storyline of Fatal Attractions, and possibly a tie-in too as well. But now it's time for us to dive back into some more X-Factor comics. Now, we're going to talk about issue number 95. And really, issue number 95 is Polaris going up against a character known as Random. Now, we have talked a lot about this character before, but when it comes to Random, he is a very interesting character in the world of Marvel Comics. You see, for the character known as Random, he has the ability to adapt to other mutants who are attacking him. So kind of giving him the edge to fight against almost any type of mutant out there. Now, occasionally he will be defeated, but most of the time he is able to hold his own against other mutants thanks to his own mutant ability. Now, when it comes to Random, he's actually, well, a mercenary. He does get hired to complete different jobs around the world. And currently, his new job is to, well, go after Polaris. Apparently, Polaris must be killed off. And so when it comes to issue number 94, the backup storyline is really more of Polaris battling against Random. And so getting into the opening pages for today's video, we do pick up with Polaris meeting up with Random. Now, for Polaris and X-Factor, they had worked with Random in the past. And so really for them, they're kind of like, hey, you know what? He's not a bad guy. We can somewhat trust him. And so when she got a call from Random, she went over to where he was at, but with her guard down because she can somewhat trust him. They can have a normal conversation. She has no idea that this is technically a trap. And so when she does arrive, just like that, you have Random trying to kill off Polaris. Now, we're not told who had hired Random just yet to kill off Polaris, but right now you have Polaris trying her best to protect herself against Random. Now, at first, he believes that he had taken her out, to only find out, nope, she is perfectly okay, and she's now ready to fight against him across the entire city. But now we have to switch our focus over to the base of X-Factor, where you have Havoc right now kind of find out that he has a new liaison. Because remember, for X-Factor, they were a government team being used as a way to build relations between the mutant race and also the human race. And so with that being said, X-Factor works for the government. Now, Val Cooper was the last liaison for X-Factor, but she had been promoted or kind of moved into a different position, and it left the door open for somebody else to take her place, and that person became Forge. Now for Forge, he's kind of wondering, why should he keep these 5 people together as X-Factor? Like, he is really thinking of the idea of getting rid of the entire team and bringing in new people to have a new X-Factor to work for the government. And so with Havoc being the field leader, Havoc has to explain why each member is very crucial for the team, why they need to stay on the team, and how they help the world out. So you have Forge start off with, well, Wolfsbane. Now, Wolfsbane is the youngest member of the team. She was part of the New Mutants back in the 1980s. Now, for Wolfsbane, she has some issues going on around this time in Marvel Comics. You see, when it came to a crossover known as the Extinction Agenda, in that crossover, her and Havoc were both kidnapped by the government of Genosha, and they were turned into slaves. Now, when they were turned into slaves, you also have Wolfsbane's mind be programmed to kind of be in love with Havoc. And so no matter what, she was going to be madly in love with Havoc until you had somebody being able to fix the programming in her mind. And so currently she's at Muir Island trying to get, well, fixed up. But for Forge here, he's kind of wondering, why in the world should we keep her around? Now for Havoc, he is quick on his feet. He said, listen, she's from a different country. And with her being from a different country, it kind of gives us a different view when it comes to our mission. Basically saying like, we're no longer a team just focusing on America alone. We're trying to help out the entire world. And so for Forge, Wolfsbane stay with those words being said by Havoc. Now, we do get a couple of pages where we do see Polaris fighting against Random. Now, really, it's more of Random just telling Polaris what his powers is and what his powers can do. Now, with all that being said, we're also kind of seeing Random trying to give Polaris hint on who had hired him. Somebody's not very close to her, but somebody that she should had expected would try to come after her. But either way, you do have the two characters continue on with their battle against one another. But now we have to transition back over to Forge and also Havoc. Now, for Forge, he begins to really question Havoc about Strong Guy, because for Strong Guy on the team, it's really more of like, he's the jokester. How can we have someone like him on a team like X Factor? Everything must be taken seriously when it comes to our mission. But for Strong Guy, almost everything is a joke. But you have Havoc say, listen, even though he does joke around, he's still a very serious person. He understands our goal, and he's trying his best to help us achieve our goal. And matter of fact, you have Havoc say, listen, when it comes to Strong Guy, he's been around for a good while now. Matter of fact, he helped us take down the Shadow King a while back as well. And so for Forge, it's like, okay, cool. You kind of did prove your point about Strong Guy. What about Jamie Maddox? Like, can we have him on the team? Now, for Havoc, man, Havoc really did try here. See, for Havoc, he tells Forge the reason why they should keep Jamie around is the whole idea of you can save money. Because for Jamie, he has the ability to make copies of himself, which honestly is a great ability to have, which means that you don't have to go out of your way to hire more people to get things done around the main base of X Factor. You have Jamie for the job. And really, what's crazy is you have Forge say like, you know what? That is a good point. Okay, cool. He can also stay on the team as well. Now, I want to transition back over to Polaris and also Random, because you have Polaris finally learn who had hired Random to come after her. And the thing is, it was the government. Now, like I said earlier, when it comes to X Factor, they are a government team being used right now as a way to build relations with the humans and mutant race. But the problem is that you only have some people in the government who is truly on board with the idea of using X Factor. You still have some people in the government who don't believe in the idea of using X Factor. And the reason why? Because they are mutants. Now, recently, when it came to Polaris, she made a very powerful speech on live television. And that did bother a lot of people who hate mutants a lot. And so it's Random saying like, listen, even though you're on the cover of Rolling Stone, even though you're really popular at the moment, you still have people out there who don't like you, all because you are a mutant. Now, you have Polaris being able to finally beat down on Random, and then she just flies away. She does not take him in as a prisoner at all. Now, the last person you have Forge and Havoc need to talk about would be Polaris. Now, when it comes to Polaris, she had gone through the ringer thanks to Chris Claremont and also Peter David when they worked on Uncanny X-Men and also X Factor. Now, for Forge, he kind of says like, listen, Polaris is our most powerful team member of the team, but the problem is she's always stepping away. How do we know that she'll stay this time to help the team out to reach our goals? Now, for Havoc, he does give Polaris a good excuse. The whole idea of, dude, she had her mind messed with by not one, but 3 different people. Matter of fact, she also lost her powers as well. She had gone through the ringer. And the thing is, Forge can't talk because if you saw my video over Uncanny X-Men issue number 300, there was a point where you have Forge say like, listen, I believe that Charles' dream cannot be reached at all. It was him giving up. And so for Havoc, it's more of like, you did the same thing as well when your mind kind of went down a dark path. But here you are now back on the right path and still trying to help us to achieve our goals. That is Polaris. She had gone through something, went down a dark path, but then came back to us. And the thing is Havoc saying, listen, for Polaris, I can tell you she has more heart than even Charles Xavier does when it comes to his own dream as well. Now, for Forge, he tells Havoc this right here, like, listen, with you being able to explain to me why we should keep each member of the team, I don't need to hear anything about you at all. I believe that we should keep this team together no matter what. Now, the ending of this book is really more of building up to a bigger storyline we're going to talk about here soon when it comes to X Factor comics. Now, we do pick up with, well, Havoc and also Polaris, the couple in the book. Now, their main goal right now is to just have a quiet night. Really, for Havoc, he's kind of concerned about the whole idea of Random still being out there, because even though you had Polaris being able to take him down, she did not turn him in at all, which means that he's still on the board to possibly come back after her once again and try to kill her off once again. And so for Havoc, he's very concerned about his girlfriend. But for Polaris, she's kind of like, listen, I have other things on my mind. And of course, that means like, it's time for some fun time on the couch. But while you have the two characters trying to make love with one another, well, that is when they are confronted by Wolfsbane, who has sneaked into the home of Polaris and Havoc. Now, like I said earlier, when she was turned into a slave back in Genosha, they also programmed her mind to be in love with Havoc. And so right now, that program is going off in her mind so badly that she had left Muir Island and came all the way back over to the home base of X Factor to be close to Havoc once again. But this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.